Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Because Football podcast. This is your host, Coach Andrew. Today, we have a fantastic guest. We've got Dane Jacomen. He's originally from Pittsburgh and is currently a goalkeeper for Loudoun United of the USL Championship. Dane, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So we mentioned, originally from the Pittsburgh area. And so I'm curious, as a kid, what were some of your earliest experiences playing or watching the game of soccer?
Yeah, so early experiences playing soccer. As a kid, I was always like a multiple sport athlete growing up. So soccer, I've been playing soccer since the age of 4. It seemed like all my friends in school were kind of playing rec soccer at Pittsburgh Dynamo, and yeah, just kind of fell in love with the game from an early age. My dad played the game. My uncle played the game. My
Okay.
grandfather played the game all collegiately. So yeah, from a young age, I kind of always had a ball at my feet. And um, growing up, I also played baseball, basketball, a little bit of hockey. So it was never like, okay, like soccer is just the path, the sport. But I'd say by the time I got to high school, I really realized that soccer was something that could take me places. It could take me into getting into a good college. It could take me into maybe even the professional ranks. And I think as I evolved in the game through high school, I just set kind of bigger and bigger goals for myself and where I wanted to go with the game. Um, and I'm just incredibly fortunate and blessed that it's taken me to some wonderful places. University of Pennsylvania first, and now here at Loudoun in the USL Championship. I'm very, very thankful for those experiences that I had as a kid that have kind of shaped where I'm at now.
And given you with your family background, right? You said your dad, your uncle, grandfather. Do you think they kind of helped to set you up on that path, or was it more kind of like hands off of, hey, you just kind of pick whatever sport or whichever direction really strikes you as your passion?
I mean, my mom and dad were always just they had the mentality of like just put me in front of good people, good coaches, people that just are passionate for what they're doing. And as long as you do that, like there's really no need to like force me one way or the other. I feel like a lot of it happened pretty organically. Like for example, I didn't even the decision wasn't even my own to like play goalie at first. Like I was playing travel ball. I think at like 9 years old, just playing travel ball with my buddies, and like our team didn't have a goalie. Yeah, at the time I was pretty talented baseball player, and one of my buddies was the same way. And so our coach goes, does anyone want to play goalie? And no one really jumped at the opportunity. And then he was like, oh, well, Dane and Eli, how about you guys like take turns, the two baseball guys basically. And um, so the moment that I like stepped in goal and started making some saves, I was like, man, this is pretty cool. I could get used to this. Um, so that's kind of how it started. And yeah, I mean, my mom and dad were awesome just as far as like really taking my lead on where I wanted to go with the sport. Um, you know, once I realized I wanted to get a little bit more serious about it, they found me an opportunity with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds Development Academy. Um, Once I got to high school, which again, like, just really took my game to a whole different level. And from that point on, yeah, like it was about instilling confidence and belief in me that like if I want this, you can really make whatever you want out of your opportunity. If you really want something, you can just like go out and get it. And that was always the belief from the outset.
It's awesome, and talking with a lot of our guests here talk about the role that their family played and parents. And I have this conversation a lot with parents of players as young as like 8, 9 years old, and it sounds like for you it was a gradual increase. Like you didn't really take that step to playing a more elite level with the Riverhounds Academy. Of course, the Riverhounds being a USL Championship, a professional team, and that academy I imagine is one of the top in the Pittsburgh area. looks like that started a little later. And I want to bring this up because I talk to so many parents who feel that like if they don't have their kid in the elite level, if their kid is not quote unquote elite at like 8, 9 years old, they have this feeling of like FOMO, like they're missing out. So what would you say to like a parent or even a kid who 8, 9, 10 years old, if they do have bigger dreams, like, but they don't quite find themselves at where they want to be necessarily, what would your advice be for them?
I would just say at that age, like just have fun with the game first and foremost. Like you if you really want to get places in the game of soccer, those opportunities are going to be there for you if you just consistently put in the work at it. Doesn't matter, if you're playing club level, best development academy in the country. Like if you're training every day and you're having fun what you're doing and you're playing competitive matches, like you're going to get to where you want to be. So there's no really stress or worry um, at that stage. And for me, like I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people I was doing it with. I enjoyed my teammates. I was fortunate to um, yeah, just have some really good coaches that kind of pushed me in the right direction. And I'd say also like look at the story of someone like a Matt Turner who like you know he
Absolutely.
he wasn't even the starter until like junior year in college. And at that point he realized, okay, like I might have something here. And it wasn't even really him that like realized that for the first time. Like one of his coaches that told him, hey man, like I think you have what it takes to play professionally. And you know, if you listen to Matt talk about that, he gets emotional because he was like, that's the first time right then and there that anyone's ever told me that. And that's, at what, like age 18 or 19 as a junior in
Right.
college. And now look
Mm-hmm.
where he is, like playing at, you know, the highest level in the world. So everyone has a different growth pattern, everyone has a different trajectory. So I wouldn't stress that you're not or your kid isn't exactly where they want to be at this moment in time. I would just continue to um, give them the opportunities to grow and just enjoy and have fun with the game.
Great advice. And speaking of Matt Turner, yeah, absolutely. I think he started later once he was in high school, got inspired by watching the World Cup and Tim Howard and then I kind of pushed him on. And so could you speak to that? And like I imagine he's one of those examples you've tried to follow. Who are some other influential players, goalkeepers or not, that you would kind of idolize and try to like shape your game like as a kid?
I'd say one of them is definitely Tim Howard. Like his performance against Belgium in the World Cup was incredible. 16 saves, record still stands
Absolutely.
um, to this day. And for him, like he just overcame so much adversity to get to where he is. And um, I don't know who all's familiar with his story, but he um, dealt with Tourette syndrome as a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
he, you know, a lot of things in life were kind of outside of his control, like didn't have a lot of money growing up, like things like that. But he always, kind of had his eyes set on a goal, and that was to be a professional athlete. And he was able to attain that just through like hard work and dedication and just like an unwavering kind of self-belief in himself. And also, he shares pretty candidly in his autobiography, like how much he has that from his family and how much that means to him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so seeing his journey just like as a kid from New Jersey, making it into the MLS, into the Premier League, like just like Matt Turner, it kind of shows you like there's no ceiling for where you can get to if you really want something and you put your mind to it, you can go out and achieve it. And for me, um, seeing his play and seeing his story as well was like super inspiring. And just in terms of his style of play on the pitch as well, like he was just so brave. Really just threw his body in front of everything and anything. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that all goalkeepers need at any level. Kind of almost like I'm sure it drives parents crazy, but you almost need to have like a complete lack of self-regard at times and Tim Howard definitely embodies that, and he embodies just that level of accountability you need to have for yourself, but also your teammates as a goalkeeper, as a leader on the field.
Is definitely, I remember watching him too, and he made such an impact as being, probably at the time, like the American making the biggest impact overseas, and his story coming from MLS as well. Even that was not really traditional. It's great that you had him as an example, and now younger goalkeepers can have you guys like Matt Turner as examples too. And you talked earlier about how your goals kind of like steadily increase as kind of yeah, as you got older, as your vision of your future increased. So eventually I took you from, playing high school and playing club ball to University of Pennsylvania, top academic school, and always like a solid program within the Ivy League. But during your time there, the program really took another level. So could you talk a little bit about your time at Penn, maybe what drew you to there, and kind of what that did to shape your experience as a student, but also as a goalkeeper?
I mean, my time at Penn was fantastic. Like, I'd say it's been probably the best 4 years of my life. Just in terms of the relationships that I built there, just the friendship and camaraderie with the guys on the team, from the seniors that were there when we were freshmen, that were kind of able to, show us the ropes a little bit, and slowly but surely we were kind of able to, make our own print on the program, when we rose through the ranks as sophomores, juniors, seniors. And that's something that's really special about college, is just like the ability just to kind of like leave somewhere hopefully better than where you found it. And yeah, I was fortunate to be a part of some pretty awesome teams there at Penn. Some guys that really bought into what we were trying to do, on the field and off the field. And Coach Gill and his staff as well were just fantastic the entire time. Um, something that he kept preaching to us, throughout my time there, was just culture. And he was really a firm believer that you really need like a strong team culture, and then the on field products will kind of follow from there. Um, and that's probably what I'm most proud of, from my time at Penn, was our ability just to kind of turn that team culture around, and turn the team from something where people were getting into the school and kind of just being there along for the ride, like on the soccer
Mm-hmm.
team, to like now, like that program is getting some like big time high level recruits, and people are going to Penn. Of course, they're always going to go to Penn for the academics, but they're going there for the soccer. Like, they're going there because they know it's a
Right.
top program. And I think that's just been a really cool evolution to kind of be a part of, and now to experience, as an alumni. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like you're saying, the time that you were there is just getting more competitive with the Ivy, and then last season, the year or two after you had left, being a top 25 program, getting into the tournament, and really just making huge strides. At what point, during your time at Penn, did you start to really look towards the next step of thinking like, all right, I know I'm going to have a great education. I'm going to leave school with a great degree, and set myself up for a great long term career. But I want to keep this soccer thing going. Like, when did that start taking shape in your mind? And then, like, how did that kind of change your approach, to your own soccer playing style, and what you're doing to prepare?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always had my sights set on making it to the professional ranks. Really, before I got to Penn, that was really the main impetus for my move to go to the DC United Academy, when I was a senior in high school. Because the Pittsburgh Riverhounds Academy was the highest level, academy in the Pittsburgh area, but um, it didn't have kind of like the same, I guess, like upward trajectory that the
Mm.
development academies did. Now it's MLS Next Pro, but at the time it was the U.S. Development Academy. So yeah, really, when I got there to DC, and really got into a professional training environment, being able to train with the first team pretty consistently there, um, as a 17-year-old, that really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things, and really how things were done at that level, and it's something that really had some appeal to me, and something I wanted to, you know, always return to, like not rush into right away, because I still,
Right.
wanted to get an education, wanted to play college soccer. Um, and I'm very glad I did so. And I think, you know, I did a good job at kind of staying present and focusing on really just making the most out of my experience at Penn while I was there, but also, having that thought that, like, okay, like, if I can continue to perform here and you know use the team's success kind of as a vehicle for my own success. When you look at, you know couple of the seasons that we had there, making the Ivy League more competitive, being competitive as a team, um, it really put us all on the map. I mean, for going into the next level. Um, if you look at Ben Stitz, for example, who was just drafted by DC United
Hmm.
last year, like Nick
Yeah.
Christopherson, drafted by Montreal. You have, Leo Burney, Stas Korzynowski, who are still there now and probably going to get some professional interests, in the years to come, being Ivy League Player of the Years as sophomores. So I think,
That's huge. Yeah.
yeah, there are just more and more people now that are going into that program and performing well, and they're going to see more and more opportunities kind of present for them when they leave, if they just keep following that path. And I was incredibly fortunate to be able to do that during my time there as well.
Yeah, it's huge. You're like one of those trailblazers, right? And the guy who kind of showed, hey, it is possible. And then now scouts and clubs start to look at the name of, Penn a little bit differently. But I wanted to talk a little bit too about, during your years at Penn, what you did to prepare in the offseason in the summer. That's obviously how you and I met through the Westchester United program, with USL League Two. So could you talk a little bit about that experience, how it might have been a bit different from, the regular college experience at Penn, and how that shaped, your ability and helped you improve personally as a player too?
Yeah, so Coach Gill encouraged pretty much all of us, at Penn, to keep playing in the summer, keep sharp, and not just like training on your own, but really finding a team to go out and continue competing with, and getting games with. So he had a good relationship with Blaise Santangelo, head coach at Westchester United. So there was a large group of us that went there and played during that summer, after junior year. I mean, that was my second year with them. I went there, um, after our COVID season was shut down as well, just to continue to get games. Which, again,
Mm-hmm.
Coach Gill kind of urged us, hey, like, we might not be playing, but there are other teams that are playing out there. Like, this could be a good opportunity for you guys. And Blaze kind of welcomed all of us at Penn that wanted to do that with open arms, and we were able to form a pretty awesome group there between us, some Drexel guys, some Nova guys, um, and then some older guys that were kind of post college that still just loved the game and wanted to keep playing. And we were able to form a pretty awesome group there that, you know, we all had like different goals and aspirations. Like, some of us wanted to get to the next level. Some of us were there just to have fun, and ultimately, like, it was a really good environment to be in, and definitely, um, was a lot of fun. Was a lot of fun. The USL two is a good level of play as well, so I think that prepared me well going into my senior year. Um, at Penn, we were able to make a run to the national quarterfinals there at Westchester. Um, and yeah, so I would encourage anyone, like, you know, throughout their college career in the off season, just to kind of go out and seek those opportunities, because they're high level games, and it's also something where, you know you can get into pretty good practice with, you know just quick team building, right, and
Mm-hmm.
getting with a new group, and being able to bring that together, and hopefully produce some pretty good results from it in a short period of time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the team building piece and just the overall experience with Westchester United, because I know that's something that Blaze really pushes and believes in, just trying to make like a fun, definitely competitive, but just a fun environment. And it's much different, I think, than the average college environment where there's so much planning, there's so much discipline, right? There's like these high standards you're being held to, but then they're still able to play great soccer, but with a different group. How important is like the team side, like you said, of just being a good teammate, of trying to contribute to that team chemistry, and does it really have an impact on performance? Do you think it is important for a championship team to be able to click, or is it more important just to have kind of the most talented players, and hopefully there's some good vibes among the group?
Yeah, I mean, I think every coach has a different way of getting there. Um, you know, I think college soccer, you have a lot more time to kind of like build that structure and that schedule and that way of doing things, and you spend kind of every waking hour around your teammates, around your coaches. So it's going to just naturally be a much more structured environment. Um, and at Westchester, yeah, I mean, Blaze did like a fantastic job of just looking at us and being like, "Hey, man, like we're gonna take this thing like however far you guys want it, and we're gonna come out here and just have fun. Like I'm gonna roll the ball out for you guys." And he used to always say like, "The ball is your teacher." Um, he would roll the ball out and just be like, this, I'm not your coach. Like this is your coach. Just like go out and play. Um, and so I think that yeah, that really resonated with us. Just to enjoy the game, like and enjoy each other, enjoy each other's presence, and don't take yourself too seriously. Like when you're in between the lines, yeah, of course, just like you know, compete hard and go for every ball like it's the last one you're ever going to go for. But like you know, when you step outside those lines, you just be a good person, be a good teammate, like make real efforts at being friends with your teammates like outside of soccer,
Mm-hmm.
and that will just it's gonna make the on-field product so much better when you kind of make the effort to build those relationships with your teammates off the field. And yeah, the best teams that I've been on really had that level of camaraderie where like we just generally there were good vibes around the team. So I'd say that is kind of like the underpinning for any successful team. And of course, like if you have the talent kind of stacked on top of that, that's when you can do some really special things.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because I don't know if people always really get that side or see that side of things, because it's hard to know, when it's easy to see how a team's performing on the field, but you don't see the dynamics, what's going on at practice, the interactions between players and coaches. So I appreciate you kind of sharing that insight. So you made that jump from USL League Two. Let's say it's roughly the fourth ish level in the very convoluted US soccer pyramid, up to USL Championship, which is the second, which is fully professional. You have clubs that are independent on their own. Some, like in the case of Loudoun, that kind of acts as a let's say a partner club or a feeder reserve club for MLS teams, like in this case, the connection with Loudoun and DC United. So when you made that jump of, two or three steps up in that soccer pyramid, what was the first thing that kind of struck you as being different? Obviously, other than getting a paycheck, but like, what would you say when you got into that environment? What was like the biggest thing you kind of noticed as a change?
I'd say I'd say just like the intensity and the pace of play, like on the field. I think everything that level happens a lot faster. Your decisions have to be faster on the field. Your scanning and reading of the game just has to be um, at a different level. You've got to be way more proactive and kind of know how things are developing before they really get to you. And that applies to goalkeepers, but I think probably any position on the field. You look at like the best midfielders in the world, for example, they're checking their shoulders every second
Scanning
and a half
constantly.
and
Yeah.
constantly scanning because things are just so happening very fast around you and the picture's constantly changing. Um, so I think that was a big one for me. Um, and I think just the physicality as well. The physicality of the league, USL Championship's a pretty physical league. And that's something you kind of just have to be ready for mentally, and then also to go into your off-season training knowing that um, yeah, you have to continue making strides forward in that department. And I'd say those two things, yeah, speed of play and physicality are really the two that jumped out at me, jumping from USL two and college into the
Mm-hmm.
championship.
And for the physicality piece, I want to bring something up with that because the average person watching the game might think, well, like as a goalkeeper, yeah, as you go to a higher level, you might be facing faster or like more powerful shots or just the velocity of crosses coming in, but maybe you're not competing like the average person might think of challenges and tackles and 50-50s and going up for headers. So how do you then as a goalkeeper how important is that physical side when you do step up to that next level?
It's huge. It's huge, man. Like, yeah, you can look at goalkeeping just as shot stopping, but like I've learned that it's so much more than that. And that was really a big thing that um, my coaches at Penn helped me grow with, is just realizing just the multiple facets of the game at goalkeeper. Coach Gill liked to call goalkeeper kind of like a custodial role, like you're kind of constantly cleaning up messes, and a lot of those messes come in the form of like just scrums in the box, and you got to be um, you know big enough, really, like in not only just in stature but also just heart to go up
Mm-hmm.
there and like win those aerial battles, to come out and dive at a striker's foot to nip the ball, or
Yeah.
come out and spread and make yourself big 1v1 and a save. Like, yeah, you just have to come out and really play big. And that comes from being brave mentally, and then if you can kind of have like the develop the physical traits to back that style of play up, um, then you can really, um, yeah, just dominate your box. And I know that you know that really helps teams out, and defenders really appreciate when you go up into a crowd in the box and come down with the ball in your hands, and you know it's not an easy thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely very rewarding when you can make the game just a lot easier for your team that way.
And you were talking too about the physical side, earlier before we started of saying that your off season is going to be a lot of physical work, a lot of strength work. So that's obviously coming through and from what you're saying. But I'm curious for any other, young aspiring goalkeepers or just like a soccer parent or someone looking to learn more about the goalkeeper position. Could you give us, let's say, like two or three? What are like the most important attributes and characteristics that a goalkeeper needs to have if they want to be successful at their level or if they want to reach their next level, whether it's high school, college, professional, whatever that may be?
Yeah, I'd say that like balance and agility work is something that I wish I got into earlier, but has been huge for me the past couple seasons. Once I got into college, and then continuing to drive that off season training, and since I became a professional. So whether it's just plyometric work, like a lot of single leg, um, you know, sticking on one foot, just hurdle work, like that kind of thing. I
Just
think
building
it's
that
it's
explosiveness, being able to drive, like you're saying, being able to drive, go up, claim a cross or a corner kick, right? Or obviously being able to move and get in position. For me, as someone who has been very much more interested in scoring goals throughout my soccer career and watching those, one thing I've picked up in the last few years as a coach that I never realized was like the importance of the footwork and, like you said, the agility and balance. Like, and I say this even if I'm working with beginning goalkeepers when I'm training them from time to time is like how important it is. You might see a ball flying up to your left side going to the corner, but you can only really reach your arm so far, right? So it depends on, and even the way you reach it, you're going to be losing your power and strength as you get there. So it's really like your footwork to be able to get in position, right? So what are some things maybe that a younger goalkeeper could do on their own? Maybe they don't have the ability, the resources to see a private trainer. Unfortunately, a lot of goalkeepers, maybe this was your case before you joined the Riverhounds, like there's not really somebody helping you as a goalie coach. Maybe you've got an assistant just kicking balls at you for like 10 minutes on your own during practice. But like, I feel bad for keepers because they're not getting the attention they need. So what's something they could do on their own, maybe to like at home with just a ball, a couple cones, something like that, that could really improve them physically and maybe any other aspect that would be important for them.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'd say if you have a wall, you have a server right there, right? Just you can always work on your handling with whether it's like a soccer ball or a tennis ball to kind of work on that hand-eye coordination. A drill that I love to do to kind of help with core and stability is to if you have like a yoga ball, if you don't, you can like buy one for like 15-20 bucks on Amazon, but balancing on a yoga ball on both knees, and then you know whether you have someone helping you out and just like throwing you a soccer ball and
Mm,
working on the hand shape, like tracking the ball all the way into your hands while staying like balanced and engaging your core. That's a good one. Then you can also do that with the tennis ball. And then I'd say, yeah, like as long as you have cones as well, you can just do like a bunch of different patterns of footwork. That doesn't really, it's boring, but doesn't really require that you have a ball or someone serving to you or anything like that. Like if you have someone um, to hit you a ball after going through the sequence of footwork, that's great. Um, but it's not necessarily needed. And yeah, I'd say another one is just like sticking single leg hops. So like you have ideally a couple hurdles, but cones also work too. And
mm,
so, you sidestep over the cones like 1, 2, and then, hop onto your outside foot and then just stick it like a single leg landing. And then you go back and do the other side. Um, Again, just helps with agility and also stability because as a goalkeeper, your set position, you need to be very strong and you need to have
mm,
really like all the muscles in your body engaged in that set position to be able to get a strong hand or a strong foot on the ball. Um, but at the same time, you don't want to be like so tense that you're um, not able to move freely. So you still need to
right.
be relaxed. So it's like a fine balance between like building that muscle memory and also when you get into that situation in the game, just exhaling and letting it go and knowing that you've done the training to kind of like set yourself up into that position.
And so hopefully that's helpful for any of the younger players out there. You're hearing it from the mouth of a pro here, so he knows what he's talking about, and get out there in the yard or wherever you need to be to work on that. But you mentioned too of just having someone maybe to support you throw a ball, like just kind of be involved too. And something I've always found really fascinating about goalkeepers is typically you've got two, maybe three keepers on a team. And it always seems like there's like this tight like brotherhood of keepers, but at the same time you guys are all like competing, right? And I've always thought it's got to be such an interesting and really nuanced type of dynamic where like you want each other to push on and become better, but then like at the end of the day you still want to be the best one because only one guy gets to play generally, right? So like what is that like, whether you're at the high school, college, pro level, like to be kind of part of that group, and how does that kind of how do you kind of create like a successful group, but then also obviously deep down everybody wants to play themselves because they're competitive.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think the two things are mutually exclusive. And I've always been like a firm believer that, um, you know, it's good to just support all of your teammates and especially your fellow goalkeepers because I think we as a goalkeeper union we have kind of an empathy with each other that we have the hardest job on the field, and we're in many ways individuals within a team sport. So um, yeah, like a group of goalkeepers on a team kind of becomes a team of its own, and
Mhm.
the more that you can kind of lean into that and ask your teammate for advice, what to do better, praise them for things they're doing well, give them some critique for things that you think they can improve, not holding things back just because you're competing and you want to play, like just
Right.
doing everything you can just to push each other forward and help each other develop because
Hmm.
um you know you're really only going to get as far as like your relationships with the people around you, and the more that you can kind of drive those forward, the more successful you're going to be, and also just the more fun your experience is going to be.
Exactly.
I every goalkeeper that I've worked with, I've genuinely had fun competing with them, and you know, just because I might play some days or I might not play some days doesn't really have any bearing on the relationships that I've been able to build with my fellow goalkeepers over the past handful of years, which I've been pretty grateful for.
Yeah, and you mentioned too, like just trying to enjoy it. You said obviously as a young kid enjoying it, but even now trying to have fun with that group because it is, whether you're at college level where it's a short season, but it's super intense, and now at USL Championship you've got a, multi 7, 8, 9 month season. What does that look like day to day for you? Let's say on a training day, a practice day, or maybe week to week. What does it actually look like? Because a lot of people just see, okay, you get to play the games, of course you go to training, but like what are some of the things that people might not really realize or be aware of that it takes in day in week out as a professional player at that level?
Yeah, I mean it's a long season. Like it's the longest season I've ever been a part of. You know, college season's more of a sprint, a couple months. You have a lot of games kind of condensed into that period of time, and the USL Championship it runs from March to October, so it's a long season. You have to be ready physically going into the season to make sure your body holds up, and then also continue to do work throughout the season to keep your body fit. So it's not just you know show up to training, train, go home. It's like show up to training early, like do some prehab exercises, like stay late after to do treatment, ice tub,
Mm-hmm.
stretching, um, whatever it might be. Um, there's a lot of film sessions that we do as well, both before matches, after matches, scouting reports, um, like game reviews, both as a team and as individuals. We use a lot of video kind of to drive that forward. Um, and then yeah, of course, on the field training, like we're training. Let's say we have one game in a given week, like we're training, 4 or 5 of those other days throughout the week. Um, and there are some weeks as well we'll have 2 games. Um, so the training kind of becomes a little bit less and a little bit more focused on regen and recovery, kind of similar to a fall college season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, like a lot goes into it, and then I think another thing that goes into it that people might not realize is the travel. The travel in the USL
Absolutely.
Championship is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Um, long trips, long away trips. We've had a handful of just early flights. You know, West Coast trips where you're kind of going out like 2 days before the match to acclimate yourself to time changes, different climates. Um, like we were going down to Phoenix when it was like 100 degrees dry heat, and we're all land
Yeah.
we land and we're like, all right, like what is this, right? So ideally you want
Shocked.
you want a little bit more time to acclimate, but at least you can get what you can in the middle of such a busy season. But that's also the really cool part about what we do is just going and experiencing new places and places we've never been, and getting to be in front of some pretty cool atmospheres as well, around the league. It's been pretty special.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about USL Championship, it is the second tier professional in the US. It tends to be in a little bit smaller markets than maybe some of the MLS teams. But because of that, you have the local communities like really involved and engaged, right? And so I'll catch highlights of different leagues and follow different teams on social media. And there's really like, although you're not getting the same crowd size always as MLS level, like you're really getting a lot of that engagement and a lot of that passion. So, does it really make a difference for you as a professional going to a stadium with maybe 700 people and it's kind of like a quiet atmosphere versus, let's say, 5, 6, 7,000 and it's roaring, they've got the flares and the banners and they're chanting? Like, does it matter to you, or do you kind of just tune everything out as a player?
It matters. It definitely matters. Like it's you're focused on the task at hand, on the field and what's playing out in front of you. You're not really focused on who's saying what to you behind the goal or anything like that. And I think when you go into those kind of larger stadiums, those like more rowdy atmospheres, um, I try to just use that crowd noise as fuel. And your adrenaline gets pumping a little bit more when you have that noise and that constant kind of
Of course.
raucous.
Yeah.
Going into Detroit, for example, was a really,
Yep.
it was a pretty intimidating atmosphere, but it was something where I think we as players are kind of able to use that to our benefit and just, yeah, like kind of raise our game to a different level with that. Pittsburgh was another pretty rowdy atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Louisville, I think Louisville had around like 9 or 10,000 fans at our
Wow.
match. Yeah, it's a different feel to the match for sure. When you have a lot of people there, um, and it's something that you just like lean into in a good way. Um, I would say, yeah,
And yeah, as a goalkeeper, right, within that atmosphere, you're a little bit unlucky because you get to be a sitting duck for the chants and the insults for people, 10, 20, 30 feet away from you for like 45 minutes, or then you switch sides. Could you share what's maybe one of the more memorable things you remember being said to you? Anything particularly memorable, and maybe that you could share here as far as insults or wisecracks from the crowd?
yeah. Then there's that, right?
They're
Maybe
doing
it is better just,
research on you, like your middle school girlfriend or
yeah,
something like that. They got your social media and everything.
yeah. Maybe it is better just to play in front of 50 quiet people, right?
Yeah,
No, Um, no, that's part. I find that stuff pretty funny. You can kind of have some laughs with your teammates after the game and be like, did I hear them saying that? A couple times this season, away fans have been calling me Big Bird because we had this like yellow, like all yellow goalkeeper kits. They're like Big Bird, Big Bird. So that's been one.
okay.
I think, and I've heard my girlfriend's name thrown out there a couple of times. That's a
Oh wow,
classic.
they're doing their research.
They're
Yeah.
they're doing their oppo, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, in college, I was told, that my mother doesn't love me. They're like they like, Dane, like Sabrina doesn't love you. It's like, oh,
Man,
that's
they're getting the first names and everything.
that's nice. That's kind of harsh, but yeah, it's all in good fun. It's all in good spirit. I wouldn't say I've really ever heard anything that's like really crossed the line. It's all been something where you kind of just look back and laugh at after the fact.
Yeah, makes that those 3 points a little bit sweeter, right? Especially away from home, be able
Yeah,
to shove it back right in their faces.
yeah,
And kind of speaking of some of the the atmospheres, the competition you faced last year, the opportunity to play against a pretty well known opponent. Could you tell me about that experience last year of being able to get some minutes against Bayern Munich and what that was like.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. That was definitely the highlight of my season last year. To be able to get that opportunity, I was extremely grateful to the DC staff to kind of like trust me and give me that opportunity. Going into the match, I wasn't really sure if I was going to get minutes. I know that obviously I knew I was rostered, but the plan originally was to give the starter of the match the 90 minutes, and then at halftime was warming up, and DC's goalkeeper coach Diego, he comes over to me and he's like, "Hey, like, be ready to go in second half. Like, I'm talking to Wayne right now. Like, I'm not going to promise anything, but like, be ready." And so at that moment, I was just like, my heart started pumping so fast, like out of my chest, and
Yeah.
I was like, man, like, is this going to happen? And minute 45 to 60, I'm just um, there in the corner with the other subs, kind of running up and down, keep looking at the clock, and then Diego comes
It's
down.
like the
He's like,
slowest 15 minutes of your life, right?
"Oh, seriously?" And yeah, the clock was just like bleeding away. Um, and my heart is just racing this entire time. Adrenaline's going, and then Diego comes down around, like, I don't know, minute 60, and he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna go in around minute 70." And so I did a little bit of stuff with the ball. There's only like so much that you can really do, like in a corner of the
Mm-hmm.
field, to like warm up. Um, but yeah, I caught a couple of volleys, did a couple of dives, and went in, and just took a moment just to kind of look around and take in the atmosphere and everything kind of happening around us. And 20,000 people at Audi Field, like, not an
Yeah.
empty seat in the house. Mostly Bayern Munich jerseys, honestly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But we still had our DC fan section kind of showing out behind us, and chanting and being loud, and um, yeah, that was just incredible to step out there in that type of environment with those type of players in the field. Like, you know, Mueller was on the field at the time, and yeah, like, we actually held our own pretty well in the second half. Ended up losing the game 6-2, but I think the second half was, we scored two, they scored two.
Okay.
Was fortunate enough to make a couple of saves. Um, and unfortunately, Mueller got one on me on a breakaway, um, which there's a pretty good picture of him just kind of standing there with his arms up like this, looking at the DC crowd. Um, and so would have loved to save the breakaway, but I can also
Yeah.
look at that and be like, hey, man, that's a World Cup winner. He's done that hundreds and hundreds of times. Like,
Exactly.
it's if there's anyone to let up a goal to in that game, that's him.
Yep.
But no, that was an awesome experience, and also just good for me to build my confidence as well, to know, like, hey, like, if I can step out and put in a good performance, and um, you know, make some good saves against a team like Bayern Munich, like, who's to say I can't do that um, whenever my number is called, and
Mm-hmm.
so that really gave me confidence going into the rest of the season, and into this season, that I do have what it takes. So yeah, that was just awesome for me on so many levels.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't that's gonna be a definite story you're gonna be telling for a while, with such a legendary club and team to be part of that. And then with the DC connection, opportunities to to be involved with Wayne Rooney, right? And his obviously his career as a player and now as a coach. It's really just cool to see that your journey, starting as 4 or 5 years old at Pittsburgh Dynamo, is taking you all this way, and just really really awesome. And we wish you the best for the rest of the USL season. A couple games you guys have left. Hope you finish strong, and hope to check in with you again in the future, and share some more fantastic stories. But it's been Fantastic, Dane. We're going to wrap up this episode like we do every podcast. And so if you could complete the sentence, because football, dot, dot, dot.
Hmm. Because football, be given the opportunity to grow as a person day in, day out.
There you go. Fantastic. It's a great way to do it. It's a fun way to grow as well, although it's definitely got its ups and downs. But of all the options out there, it's one of my favorites to pick too. So great answer. And I think for everybody watching, there's so much, that we talked about, obviously, with Dane's journey, what he's gone through, but like the mentality, the vision, the confidence that he's had to have, like having heroes and idols to try to emulate, and just believing in yourself and putting the work in. So it's great stuff. We know it's a day-to-day challenge and a labor of love, and we wish you the best with it going forward. And thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew. Really appreciate sharing my journey with you guys, and also I hope that your listeners can kind of take something away from the episode. And looking forward to being on again soon. Thank you.
Absolutely, tons of value there. So everybody else, thank you again for watching, listening, viewing, and we'll see you on the next episode.